If you're sitting in a room that feels too warm right now, what I am about to show you could change the way you experience every summer for the rest of your life. For less than the cost of a coffee, a single item from any hardware store, you can drop your perceived room temperature by 15 degrees. The physics behind it have been known and tested for centuries. And the reason most people do not know it has less to do with conspiracy and more to do with something far more unsettling. Nobody had a financial reason to tell you. If this is the kind of thing you want to keep learning about, subscribe. This channel exists for exactly this. Here's what changed everything. In the summer of 2022, a heat wave moved across Europe and killed over 61,000 people in a single season. Not in remote villages without roads, in cities with hospitals and grocery stores and internet connections. Most of the dead were elderly people in apartments with no cooling system and windows that could not be opened wide enough to matter. 61,000 people. In 2023, Phoenix, Arizona recorded 31 consecutive days above 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Emergency rooms overflowed. A significant portion of the victims came from homes where the air conditioning unit was broken, unaffordable to run, or never installed at all. This is not a comfort problem anymore. It is a survival problem, and it is accelerating. The average American household spends over $2,300 per year on energy, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. Cooling accounts for roughly 12% of that total. That is money leaving working households every single month for a problem a $4 fan could address for most of the year. The International Energy Agency reported in 2023 that 2.2 billion people on Earth have no access to air conditioning at all. The machine exists. The bill is the barrier. So what if the solution was not a machine at all? The secret starts with a principle so fundamental that Roman architects built it into their villas 2,000 years ago. It is called cross-ventilation. When air enters a building through one opening and exits through an opening on the opposite side, a continuous flow moves through the interior. That much is obvious. What is not obvious is what happens when the geometry is right. The Bernoulli principle, named after Swiss mathematician Daniel Bernoulli, who published it in 1738, describes what happens when air accelerates through a constricted space. Its pressure drops, and that drop pulls more air in behind it. Your room becomes a low-pressure engine, drawing air through itself faster than the wind outside is even moving. Research published by the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers found this can amplify airflow speed by 30 to 50%, compared to simply opening one window alone. The room is not just ventilated, it is actively pulling heat out of itself. But here is what most people miss entirely. Moving air does not cool a room the way air conditioning does. What it does is accelerate the evaporation of moisture from your skin, which is the primary way your body has always regulated its own temperature. At 1 to 2 miles per hour of airflow, a gentle drift you can barely feel, your perceived temperature drops by 3 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. At 3 to 4 miles per hour, which a basic box fan achieves easily, the perceived drop reaches 7 to 10 degrees. Combined with thermal mass flushing, the actual measurable air temperature inside the room can drop by 15 degrees or more. That is not perceived. That is a thermometer. Every room you have ever been in is filled with thermal mass. Concrete floors, brick walls, tile, furniture, books on a shelf. All of it absorbs heat during the day the way a sponge absorbs water. This is the reason your room still feels brutal at 9 in the evening, even when the outside temperature has already fallen by 10 or 15 degrees. The walls are paying back the heat debt they built up all afternoon. Thermal mass flushing uses forced airflow, a box fan, to push cooler nighttime air across those heat-storing surfaces and exhaust the stored warmth outside. A study at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory demonstrated that nighttime ventilation combined with thermal mass can reduce peak indoor temperatures by 5 to 12 degrees Celsius. That is 9 to nearly 22 degrees Fahrenheit, from a fan you can buy at any hardware store. Carpet insulates against this effect. A bare concrete floor responds dramatically. But even in a standard carpeted room, the ceiling, furniture, and air volume all participate. Now here is where the $4 purchase matters. A standard 20-inch box fan replaces all the air in a typical bedroom more than twice every minute. Place it in a window blowing outward, not inward. Open a window on the opposite side of the home. Research from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory confirmed that the exhaust configuration produces 20 to 40% more total air exchange than intake configuration in most residential geometries. When a fan blows inward, it creates a turbulent cone that disperses quickly and leaves pockets of stagnant hot air in the corners. When it blows outward, the entire room experiences gentle negative pressure that draws fresh air evenly across every surface. A box fan consumes 50 to 100 watts. A window air conditioning unit consumes 500 to 2,500 watts. Over an entire summer, that difference runs into hundreds of dollars. The American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers formally recognized something called the adaptive comfort model in ASHRAE Standard 55. The research showed that humans tolerate higher temperatures far better when air is moving across their skin than in still air. In still air, most people report discomfort above 77 degrees Fahrenheit. With airflow of just 1.5 miles per hour, that threshold rises to roughly 84 degrees. At 3 miles per hour, easily achievable with a box fan and cross ventilation, it extends to approximately 88 degrees. The body was engineered for moving air. The sealed room is the aberration. Before 1950, the vast majority of American buildings were designed around cross ventilation as the primary cooling strategy. Architects oriented buildings to capture summer breezes, placed windows on opposite walls, and used deep roof overhangs to shade from direct sun while preserving airflow. The shotgun houses of New Orleans, the dogtrot houses of the American South, the courtyard homes of the Middle East, all engineered around the exact same physics. Then air conditioning arrived, and something subtle happened that had nothing to do with malice. Builders realized that sealed buildings with mechanical cooling could be constructed faster and cheaper, with no thought given to window placement or airflow design. A paper published in the journal Energy and Buildings in 2018 documented that the average number of operable windows in American homes declined by over 40% between 1960 and 2010. The industry did not bury the knowledge. It simply built a world where you needed them and forgot you had another option. Air conditioning now accounts for roughly 10% of all global electricity consumption. And the refrigerants inside those units carry global warming potential thousands of times greater than carbon dioxide. Researchers at the University of Oregon's Energy Studies and Buildings Laboratory showed that even in modern sealed homes, retrofitting 2 operable windows on opposite walls and adding a single box fan can reduce air conditioning energy use by 40 to 70% during spring and fall months. Architect Francis Carré, who won the Pritzker Architecture Prize in 2022, has designed schools in Burkina Faso that stay comfortable above 110 degrees Fahrenheit using cross ventilation and thermal mass alone, with zero electricity. Thick clay walls absorb heat during the day. Raised perforated ceilings let it escape at night. These are not proposals. They are buildings people use every day. Here's exactly how to use this tonight. Wait until the outside temperature drops below indoor temperature. In most American climates, that happens between 7 and 9 p.m. in summer. Open a window on the shadier side of your home or the side facing the prevailing breeze. On the opposite side, place a box fan blowing outward. Open all interior doors between the 2 windows so air can move the full path. To push the effect further, set a shallow pan of water in front of the intake window. Evaporating water drops the incoming air another 3 to 8 degrees depending on humidity. Run the system through the night. By morning, the walls and floor have been flushed of stored heat. Then close every window and blind before the sun rises, trapping that cooled thermal mass inside like a battery charged overnight. Lawrence Berkeley. National Laboratory found this pre-cooling strategy reduces cooling electricity bills by 30 to 50% over an entire summer. One more thing, almost nobody mentions. The EPA has documented that indoor air can be 2 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air due to off-gassing from furniture, cleaning products, and cooking fumes. Cross-ventilation flushes those pollutants out and replaces them with fresh air. A study in the journal Indoor Air in 2021 found that natural ventilation reduced volatile organic compound concentrations by an average of 60% compared to recirculated mechanical HVS air. The $4 fan is cooling your room, purifying your air, and cutting your electricity bill simultaneously. 3 jobs, 1 purchase. The ancient Egyptians built rooms in the great houses of Amarna over 3,000 years ago, with high and low openings designed to create stack-driven ventilation in Saharan heat. The Persians built wind towers as early as the 4th century that cooled underground water reservoirs to near freezing temperatures using nothing but convection and evaporation. The Mughals designed courtyards and water channels at Fatehpur Sikri that dropped air temperatures by 20 degrees before it reached occupied rooms. All of these civilizations understood something that the modern world spent a century and trillions of dollars forgetting. Cooling a space does not require compressing chemicals through copper tubes. It requires understanding how air wants to move and then getting out of its way. The air around you is already trying to cool you down. The wind already wants to flow. The thermal mass in your walls already wants to release its heat into the night sky. All you have to do is open the right windows, point the fan the right direction, and let the oldest cooling system on Earth do what it has always done. If that is the kind of question you want to keep asking, what was known, what was forgotten, and what we can still recover, subscribe. This is where we go looking.